to get started on time for the first time in a water polo event in history. We'll do that together. But please make yourself comfortable. Please come in. We literally just started talking, so welcome, guys. If you didn't check in before, you can grab a folder from the front. Some of the contents that you guys have with you, there's a folder, some info in there, schedule in there. There's an article that Drew and I put together from an experience at World League Super Final earlier in 2019. That it actually has a corresponding video to it. I'll reference that later. But other stuff that's out there, you're welcome to any of the kind of tchotchkes or anything that's out there as well. Another thing that we want to have during the course of the weekend, some of you guys grab those pens and 3x5 cards. Those 3x5 cards are there as questions come up during the course of the weekend. There's a little bucket out there you can drop the card in the bucket, and then at the end of the day, today we have a Q&A with the panel up here, and I'll be able to answer some questions. We'll be able to answer some questions for you just straight out of that. It's a little bit of a smoother process. So as things come up and we didn't get a chance to answer it, write it on the card and we'll go from there. I struggle to stand behind the podium. I do. Hey, I can't tell you guys how excited we are to be here right now because first of all, my name is John Abdou. I'm the Chief High Performance Officer at USA Water Polo. Our job here in general, my job is twofold. It's to manage our Olympic development program from our Olympic teams all the way down to our development teams and that side, but also run the growth and education side of our house as well. And I think I'm always just as excited about this side of the house as I am as that side of the house. Like for us, being here and having some sort of idea that we're going to have 85 to potentially over 100 people walking in and out of here this weekend at a Chicago coaching conference in the Midwest is incredibly exciting for me. So we've been doing this together for a little while now. We've been at this. I've been doing coaching conferences for 15, 16 years, and when I would get 20 coaches, when a guy could get 20 water polo coaches in the room for a coaching conference, I would be incredibly excited, right? So to get to a point now where when we run these things, we get 85 registrations, 100 registrations at this time is phenomenal, right? So this is exciting. So what this means to me is that the sport is growing, and it's growing because of coaches. And I can't tell you that how connected the two are, right? So you're going to hear from myself, you're going to hear from our men's Olympic coach, you're going to hear from a lot of people on that side of the house, but our national teams don't get better, this sport doesn't get better, this sport doesn't grow without coaches, period, right? We're the leaders in this sport. The coaches are the leaders in this sport. You guys are the decision makers. We're the decision makers. We're the ones who are growing our clubs. We're the ones growing high schools. We're the ones growing the game at the college level. So you guys are an integral part of that. And to have 85 people here, again, registered, I think probably, again, close to 100, some in and out, people in and out through the weekend is a huge accomplishment for this. And I hope the goal for this weekend is when we walk out of here is that we're all excited about a professional a lot more than we were when we walked in, period. And I'm excited, and you're going to feel that, and you're going to hear that through the course of this. You guys know a lot of the speakers, you read their bios on the way in. I'll introduce each of them before they speak, but I couldn't be more thrilled to have Drew Clue, our training coach, education, and training manager here with us. Coach Daniel Layson from UC Davis, but also from our Olympic development program and pipeline and 2004 Olympic staff. And then, of course, you guys should know Coach Deanna Dovicic, all the way left there, who literally left practice with our men's Olympic team as they were training right when the buzzer sounded, ran to LAX and flew here last night. So to take a break from how we're training right now to be here with you guys should also show how much we care about this, right? That we care about making this, when I say this, I mean coach education, coach development, our leadership development here work, and that's what we want. So thank you guys for being here. I'm going to spend a little more time talking about them as time goes on, but real quick, just want to go over and level set what we're trying to accomplish here this weekend. And I may even try to do this. Can you guys hear me all right without the mic? Are you okay? I like it way better without the mic. Drew may need it, but I'll be okay without the mic. Better, yeah? A little more in there. So, just a couple things that I want to level set what we're trying to accomplish this weekend, right? So we're trying to get better as coaches and what we're trying to do. So if you're going to hear a few things from us over the course of the day today and tomorrow, and there's some overriding themes. So these are things that I just want to make sure we understand that we're trying to do. First and foremost, right? There is no wasted time in what we do, and there's not gonna be any wasted movements in what we're teaching. So first and foremost, our best commodity, our most valuable commodity that we have is time. As coaches here this weekend, our most valuable commodity is time. And when we have time, we can't waste it, right? And we're gonna talk a lot about how we're not gonna waste time and be efficient with this as we go. With that wasted time is no wasted movements. I can't tell you, when we go around the country and we do things, how much not only are we wasting our movements as coaches, but the wasted movements that we have for our athletes and our players in the water. Okay? That's first and foremost. Second, when I talk about coaches and when I talk about developing quality coaches in America, we talk about these three things, right? We talk about being great communicators, we talk about being organized, we talk about being prepared. Those are the best coaches in the country, have those three qualities. The fourth quality that we throw in there is knowledge of the sport. That's the last thing that I'll ask of you this weekend, is how much do you know about water polo? Okay? And this is going to be a really important, as we talk about this in this 80-20 rule when I put it up there. This is a basic business practices you guys may know from your respective fields outside of coaching, right? But when you want to be successful in whatever line of work you're at, 80% of it is your soft skills. Right? 80% of it is your leadership skills that we'll talk about through the week. 20% of it is going to be your technical knowledge of that. So just because a doctor graduated from Harvard Medical School, right, and they come in and they're a jerk to me and have no bedside manner, does not mean that I'm going to turn over my life to this doctor, regardless of their training. Right? So regardless of what you think you know about water polo, everything else is what we're going to try to develop through the course of this weekend as well. On top of that, we're going to talk a lot of water polo. We're going to talk a lot of that stuff. So I want to make sure that we understand that what we're trying to develop here is better people, better coaches, and work through this as we go. Okay?
Quick question. Are we going to have access to this slideshow?
Yes. So at the end of the conference, since everybody's registered here, I'll be able to email you some follow-up stuff, and that's a good question. And two, Drew has some of these things set up on his talks where you'll be able to download the talks immediately on your phone when you take a picture of it later off a QR code. So yes, that's a good question to ask along the way. Thank you for that. So keep that in mind, that a coach's knowledge is never going to outweigh their character, right? So there's a lot of people in here. I know many of you in here already. We've met through this room. I know I'm looking at a lot of great coaches, a lot of people who know a lot about water polo, but your success in this sport, your success in this profession is going to have very little to do with how much you actually know about water polo. Everything else will come into play. A day does not go by. You guys know I told you what I do for a living. A day does not go by where I don't get called about a reference for a coach for a job, right? So we're growing the sport dramatically across the country. The college level, high school level, all right, club, everything's growing. So when people call me and they say, hey, John, I'm looking for a coach. Do you have a coach for me? Right? When I'm going back to them with that information going back is this. The first thing I say is this person does not know a lot about water polo. I don't level set and say, this is the most knowledgeable water polo coach in the world. I'm going to come back and say, this person's really organized, they're prepared, they're a great communicator, they care about kids, and they know enough about water polo to be successful where they need to be. That stuff can be fixed. When an athletic director is interviewing for a job, whether that be at the high school level, the college level, wherever, when athletic directors are interviewing for jobs, they're not asking you how much you know about your skill. They're going to ask you about everything else. That's what your review is like, and you can ask all of us, right, when we get down to it, when we're being reviewed at the end of the day, right? Our success, our wins and losses are not necessarily the highest rating when we're being evaluated. So keep that in mind. One thing, and when we keep talking about leadership in this, I said this already, but what we don't want in our coaching clinics, what we don't want out of what we do here is to create robots. So we're not here to say, here's a coaching manual, right? Read this manual, and when you're done reading this manual, now regurgitate that manual out on the pool deck, right? And you're gonna be a great coach. That can't be it. The best coaches in the world, in whatever they do, have an authentic approach to what they're doing. So we're gonna give you a lot of information. There's gonna be a ton of stuff over the next few hours, all day tomorrow, and I want you to be able to take that information, synthesize it, and then turn it into your own approach in how you coach. That's the only way this works. If it worked otherwise, then I could go coach my son's baseball team next week, right? And I could download the manual off of usabaseball.com, read it, and then be the best baseball coach in the world. That's just not gonna be the case, right? There has to be some authenticity into the things that we are doing as you're getting this information from everybody here. You've maybe heard me say this before in the past at other talks I've given, but we value the technical over the tactical, right? So you will hear some tactical stuff today, right? Drew's gonna go over some offense and defense, some basic things, and for us, we can have discussions about tactics. We can have discussions about tactics, but at the end of the day, what we're trying to develop are whole athletes. If we're developing a whole athlete, I'm talking from top to bottom, holistic athlete. Is the person, do they work hard? Are they coachable? Are they good people? Do they have a work ethic? Can they move well in the water? I'm going to talk a lot about this tomorrow when we're talking about what we're trying to do to get your kids recruited for college, right? And get your kids identified on the college level, right? What is their relationship with the water? How do they move in the water? That becomes the most important thing. So when we come back and say, but coach, they know how to run 50 plays, right? And we won a state championship. And those 50 plays in our playbook that we studied 4 days a week, right, got us to the semifinals and we won that game. That's not what I'm going to ask you about your player. So can they go over their hips? It's great that they're all state first team, but if they can't go over their hips, right, they'll never play for us. They'll never be able to play for college, never be able to move on that. So we value the technical over the tactical in this holistic approach across the board here. And when I say holistic, I mean this model. Right? I mean this model. And this is what we use on our highest level teams to even our development teams, to even high school, college, no matter what your level. What we're trying to talk about is an entire model here that's going to help us get better as coaches, but then also as programs. So not only do I want you thinking about this as you're developing your programs, I want you thinking about this as you evaluate your programs. So when you're going through the end of your season, you're at the end of a season, you're at the end of a time period, how are you evaluating whether or not you did a good job? You're going to go back and you're going to say, did we do any of these things? And how did we think? Did we use technology? You know, do we have any sense of like culture and psychology on our team? Doesn't mean you have to go buy, a bunch of books. Doesn't mean you have to go rent the sports psychologist for the weekend and pay him a fee. This high performance model can be done, and I want to make this very clear, with almost little to no budget money. Anybody can do this with the fewest amount of resources. All these resources available to you. And the reason I put the clubs in the middle, and for high schools and colleges and everything in the middle, is because when you guys get better, we get better. Right? We get better. Our national teams at the Olympic level, I get asked this question all the time, right, by people. How are your national teams going to get better? I can tell you when our national teams are going to get better in America all the time. We're sustain our excellence, right? For us to sustain our excellence across the board is when I have 100 men and 100 women vying for those 13 spots on the Olympic team. And when there's 100 people vying for those spots on the team, and that could all play at that level, they have to be from all over the country. That's when it's going to be challenging for us, right? Coach and I were talking about it this morning. I talk about it with Coach Krikorian all the time, right? We can't, when I put our depth chart together and we're looking at our depth chart, I want the depth chart to go really deep. I want 20 centers that we're looking at. I want the center from Illinois. I want that center from Michigan. I want that center from Ohio, right? That's 6'5", 250, can get over his hips really well, right? Can swim well, right? And has the aggressiveness and the work ethic and the coachability to be able to compete for that. That's when we all get better, is when we're doing this. So keep this in mind as we're talking about it this week. Okay? And the reason I say you could do this with little to no budget money, because a lot of these resources are available to you. So you asked the question whether these talks are available for you. Yes, they will. They will be. We're not recording. You guys are free to record as much as you want this weekend, right? On your phones, feel free. We're an open book. But for the most part, all this stuff is out there already for you right now. We've put this in your hands for you. One, we have a coaching manual. Not the coaching manual I want you reading, right, on the pool deck to your teams or usually to your teams, but the coaching manual that you can read as a resource. And Coach Pluto over here did a great job of aggregating information from all over the place, right, to put it into this manual. This manual is free online. You just got to go to our website. It's there for everybody, right? And it's constantly being updated, right, through the year with updates and what we're trying to do. And understanding that these things like this manual and having Coach Udovicic here and having Coach Krikorian in our pipeline and the things that we do, their presence at these things is fantastic, but more so in all the things that we produce and we create, we're aggregating from them, from past Olympic coaches, from every coach in our country at a high level is putting it in. So this is not us just saying, I'm smart, let me write this book for you, right? This is a collection of things, right? And I think that's one of the reasons why we feel so lucky to be in our jobs. I know that I feel so blessed to be in my job, is because I just get to think about water polo all day. And I just get to collect all this information. So by no means, during the course this weekend, am I talking to you as if I know what I'm talking about. I'm talking to you because other people have told me, and I'm regurgitating this, right? And I get the chance to collect this all. We have this coaching manual online free for you. We have a mobile coaching app. Again, free, that you can download, that has all our videos, right, of ODP drills that we've done and that we've put together. Everybody should have that and have access to that. That's what you're studying at home. Being able to show your athletes before practice, after practice, giving them homework, saying, hey, go on the app, watch these 3 drills so that you know tomorrow we're gonna come do this so you can get over your hips better, shot block better, wall drills, all the things that we do. These types of talks that we're giving today, these talks that we've given in the past, we put on our YouTube channel. YouTube's free. YouTube's free. And contrary to popular belief, it's there for more than just watching other people play video games, right? There's good stuff on there, right? There's actually good stuff on YouTube, okay? And if you go and you subscribe to this high performance education channel, USA Water Polo High Performance Education channel, you will find talks from the last 6, 7 years of us doing this and collecting a massive library of talks that are in there. Right? All valuable, all good things that are there, including people who are on the stage, their talks are on there from the past as well. On that is similar to the high performance YouTube channel, there's also USA Water Polo, just straight up USA Water Polo YouTube channel. Every exhibition game that we've hosted in the last 7 years is on there. You want something for your team, for your men's team, your women's team to watch at lunch, right? You want to have a game lunch during the week in your classroom, go on YouTube, on our YouTube page, right? And pull up USA versus Australia, right? From just this past year. USA versus Spain, Serbia. Any of these games that we've hosted here, right? You can watch the one that we hosted in Chicago, right? In 2016, along the way. It's still there. Has the most views. That game has the most views of any of the games we had on our YouTube page when we hosted here at University of Illinois Chicago. Awesome stuff. Use it. That's there for you. And I can't tell you, this is all free. So I go back to the high performance model. All that's there as a resource. I started coaching high school in 2000. In the year 2000. 20 years ago, I started coaching high school. I would hunt people down, and coaches can remind me, I'd hunt people down to find a European championship, a world championship, something on a VHS so I could show my students, right? Show my athletes. I just want to watch this one game that we found after hunting things down. Now it's available at the snap of your fingers. And you can even give them assignments. Hey, go home and watch this game, right? Here's the link. Everyone's go home and watch this game. Now come back to this. Have it. Events. Academy. So this coaching summit, I want you to know how special it is that we're here today. We've only done this at this large of a scale one other time. It was last January, right? Some of you were there, right? In Southern California. It was January of 2019. This is the first one we've done since then of this scale, right? And the plan is to not do these very often, right? These are big things. We do this on occasion, once, 2, 3 times a year. Other things that we're adding into this. We're here in the Midwest now. We can make this a yearly thing if this continues to pick up momentum. But we also have a holiday camp. Maybe you've heard of the USA Water Polo Holiday Camp. It's in Colorado Springs every December, right? We had our first annual Coach Academy, right? That Coach Kloot put together there this past December. That's an intensive on-deck classroom and on-deck 5 days in Colorado Springs at our Olympic Training Center, at the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs. You think about that, get ahead of it. That's an opportunity to be there for that. And then we have competitions. We will be 2.5 hours away from here by car. Right, at the end of April, beginning of May, right, we are hosting the Intercontinental Cup in Indianapolis. Right? What the Intercontinental Cup is all non-European teams from around the world competing for an opportunity to qualify for World League Super Final shortly after that. Right? That competition is going to be happening not too far from here. Right? I suggest everybody to be there. And for the most part, it's water polo. You get there early enough, you'll be able to get a seat in the front row, get there, and you can be able to hear what the coaches are saying to their teams, right? You can learn by osmosis. You can watch these coaches, you can watch these games, you can get something out of it. May even be able to throw together a couple of coach meetings like this, right? While we're out there to take advantage of those opportunities. But I highly recommend that you guys get out to this. And again, if you can't, every one of those games is going to be streamed and put on YouTube. So we're running out of excuses, right? We're running out of excuses as we go along. This is a clip of some of the videos that we have on the app. If those guys go in there and see there, we'll actually see a couple of them. Through the course of this, you'll see, I talked about the high performance model. All of these are strength and conditioning articles and strength and conditioning resources with videos for you to add strength and conditioning into your programs today, right? Next week, right when you're starting. So you tell me, Coach, we don't have a strength and conditioning coach at my high school. I can't afford to do an online app for this. Fine. Free, download or give a link to all your athletes with this of how to do a proper shoulder warm-up, how to do bands properly. There's 2 places on the body that are injured, the highest rates of injury in water polo, you guys know, right? 2 places, right? Shoulders and what? Hips. Yeah. Shoulders and hips. These are the 2 places that water polo players get hurt the most. And the least amount of time is spent on them on dry land. But most of the time spent in the water. So we kill our athletes with, hey, swim 10,000 meters, then throw the ball as hard as you can, 20 times to the goal. And when they get on and say, my shoulder hurts, coach, you're like, oh, why? Why does your shoulder hurt? Yeah? What'd you do to prevent that injury? What'd you do to help them prepare their bodies for what you want to put them through in the water? Right? Shoulder warm-ups, hip warm-ups, stretching, all those things are there for you. Again, at no cost. You can run a high-performance program at very minimal cost as we go through this. Okay? And there's one more resource that I think is incredibly available for everybody. Right? All right? This is another free resource that's out there for all of you to see and to know. Right? And that resource for all of you guys is each other. Right? It's each other. Iron sharpens iron. You need other coaches to help you get better. I can tell you in water polo, I see this in all sports, but I can tell you, maybe because I'm more sensitive to it in our sport, the lack of collaboration amongst coaches is the most disheartening thing that I deal with on a daily basis in our sport, by far. By far. And with how small our sport is in relation to other sports, we can't afford that. We just can't. So if you're basketball or you're soccer, and you have 4 million people playing your sport, and it's this everyday backyard sport that everybody plays, and there's 4 million coaches, and 1 million of them don't get along, which is a lot, it doesn't really affect the place. 3 other million people are still playing soccer in positive environments. But when you have, let's call it 120,000 kids and people playing water polo across the country, and more than half of us are bickering with each other every chance we get, not learning from each other, not collaborating together on what we do when we're trying to get better, that is a massive effect on us. Does that make sense? You can get better with the people next to you. You can get better working with the people next to you. And I can tell you every one of these people up here is going to say this. At some point, they're going to reference another coach they competed against to help them get better. I spend a lot of time with both of our Olympic coaches. You know who calls their phone the most? Other coaches from other countries. I can't sit with him for more than an hour until he hears from a coach from another country. But these are our biggest competitors competing on the biggest stage in the world, and they're talking and collaborating on a daily basis. So you're telling me you can't compete and collaborate with the people down the street from you? You got no excuse. We got to get better. We got to get better at this, and we're all going to get better at this. And I would say it's not cut off here, but the person whose name is up top is a guy named Dr. Wade Gilbert. Dr. Wade Gilbert gave our keynote address the first time we kicked this off, and he's a big influencer in what we do in our coach education process. He's a coach. He's a coaching scientist at the Fresno State University, and he's been influencing a lot of what we do. And this is a slide straight off of his presentation he gave last January. Add another coach to your network today. We put name tags out there for you guys for a reason. If you don't know your neighbors, you don't know the people, you're going to put a name tag and start getting better. We get better when we all get better, right? So we push each other and we collaborate together. As we go through the weekend, keep that in mind, right? Because you got no excuse. You're going to have, all of us are music aficionados up here, so you're going to get music references through the course of this. But my favorite Bob Marley quote of all time is right up there. If you can't access the abundance of resources that are available for you as a coach, if you can't access the other 80 some odd people that are in this room to help you get better, that's on you, right? The abundance of resources that are out there for us that are fingertips, quickly, for free. No resources are there for us, okay? We're working on it. Yeah, okay. You'll get the music reference, you'll get a Marley reference from me, you'll get a few more references down the line from everybody else as we keep going, right? So keep this in mind as we collaborate. I'm wrapping up here. I'm going to leave you with a question then that should resonate and sit with us as we go through this. I talked already about how do we get better as coaches? How do we lead as coaches? How do we develop holistic athletes, whole athletes, high-performing athletes that can be developed for a long-term effectiveness with technical skills? And that technical is more than tactical. I said all these things already, right? But the question is in the back of your mind, what you're probably thinking is, right? How do I develop an athlete long-term and win at the same time? If I want my athlete, right, to be really good at going over their hips and really mobile in the water and be able to shot block, right, and be able to swim well with their head up, right, and be able to move on. And we're going to talk about all these things, especially with Coach Joseph's shots next. But you're going to say, but I got to draw my game plan, I got to have a scouting report, I got 2 days of practice, right, and I got to win my state sectional next weekend. How do I do that? It's a fair question, right? It's a fair question. And I'm not telling you I know the answer. What I'm telling you is, though, is that don't shoot down or dismiss the ideas that we're working on here in terms of long-term development for our athletes and think that they're mutually exclusive. Winning and being successful with your teams and your athletes is not mutually exclusive of developing them for a long-term career in water polo. They are not. They're actually completely interrelated. But you will have to sacrifice at different times, right? You'll have to sacrifice, hey, I'm gonna work a little less tactics this week so that we can develop this thing for the long term that we're doing for the right thing for the kids. But then you might say, hey, look, this week we're gonna do some scouting reports, we're gonna get ready to face our opponent, so we're gonna have a little less tactical or a little less technical work. But how we balance those things and how we cross these things over are gonna be really, really important for us as we go. I say this to the kid every time I give a clinic to young athletes. I always say one thing to them in the very beginning. My goal for you as you get through this clinic or you get through whatever they're doing with me is I want water polo to be a part of your life for the rest of your life. I want water polo to be a part of your life for as long as you live. So that means hopefully you're playing for the rest of your life, but it also means you're coaching, you're refereeing, you're a part of this. Right? So how are we developing athletes at the long-term level, but also being successful at the same time? Keep that in the back of your mind as you guys are going here. I'm excited. Can you tell I haven't taken a breath yet? Yeah? This is how I go. This to me is the most exciting thing that we can do is get better as us, because we're the influencers, right? Coaches are the influencers. We're the leaders. We're the ones in charge, right? So keep that in mind as we go. You'll be able to, like I said, answer any questions as we go along. If you have questions, write them down on a note card. You can put them in the bucket at the breaks. I'm gonna introduce Coach Adovicic here, right, in a second. We're gonna go on his talk. We'll have short breaks in between. There'll be water, there'll be snacks, right, to keep us awake and alive in this dark room, right, so we can see this. But we couldn't be happier to get this started and to get going, and we'll get started. As you put up Coach Adovicic's slides here, let me just tell